This is an important car for Skoda. Not only is it the first car with the new solid design language, but also the new generation of electric cars from Skoda. It's a mini Enyaq in many ways, because of course Enyaq is the all-electric SUV Skoda is currently selling, and it's a big hit. And this is a smaller, modern interpretation of that. And it is basically offering everything the Enyaq offers, but in a fresh package, slightly smaller as well. My name is Peter, and in this video I'm going to show you all around the car, and I'm going to show you why this car is going to be an enormous hit for Skoda. Starting here at the front, the new solid design language has these daytime running lights here on the top with the main beams underneath. That's a new way forward apparently, because these LED matrix lights are so good that they can actually be placed lower in the car. They don't need to be high up anymore. So Skoda has now a split design with the daytime running lights up here and the beams down here. In the middle we have this sort of visor connecting the whole front of the car, and of course with the new Skoda badge here on the front. In this racing blue, it's quite a striking car to see, especially because it's a Sportline version. Obviously there's several options and packages available, but here in this Sportline version it looks nice and chunky. Going around the car, you can see 20-inch wheels in this version. 21-inch are optionally available as well. And just looking around the car, it has a lot of sort of mini Enyaq vibes, but in a very modern way. Like these creases, the lines that Skoda has put in this car, and you can see it especially in the back. It's really nice and fresh without overly wanting to look modern and wanting to look like an EV. It still looks like a normal car, which I think is quite an achievement, even though it's all electric. Well, back here, the main story is obviously the boot. Skoda is known for having big and practical boots, and this is no different. Just under 500 liters, with some smart solutions like this net here for the power cable and these shelves here for storage of little things, and still all this capacity in the main part of the boot. So that's great. The boot is actually one of the areas where this car is smaller than the Enyaq. It's about 100 liters difference, and the car is about 20 centimeters shorter, so you know that has to go somewhere. But still, just under 500 liters is super practical, super usable, and let's be honest, basically all you need. Now I mentioned this car is not trying to be overly modern, and I think here in the back we can really see that. It has modern lines, modern creases, modern shapes, which is really nice, but it's not overdoing it. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel here. It's still a very recognizable Skoda back, and it's still very recognizable as a normal car. It's not this overly complicated droplet shape for optimal aerodynamic efficiency and so on. It still is. It has a coefficient of 0.26, which is really good, obviously for your range, but it still looks like a normal car. And especially in this Sportline version, it looks nice and chunky with this spoiler, for example. It's just nice. So Skoda has done a really good job in making this car look fresh and modern without overselling it. So that is actually quite nice. Obviously, we've got to talk about charging. Charging port is back here. 11 kilowatts charging at home, so that is the standard that you should achieve obviously, and 175 kilowatts of fast charging. Not groundbreaking, not revolutionary, but I don't think that's necessary either. When you talk to the Skoda engineers, they're like, yeah, all that faster charging is great, and at some point we'll get there, but it's not necessary. These cars charge so fast, and the charging times from 20 to 80% are what really matters. And like, we really have to get around the fact that you need to charge for 10 minutes, 15 minutes while you're stopping, not this full 100% charging. It's not necessary. Because the charging time from 20 to 80% is just as long as from 80 to 100%. So there's no need for the 100% charging goal, so to speak. So 175 kilowatts is more than plenty, especially considering today we have the 50, which is the 52 kilowatt hour battery. There's bigger packs available as well, obviously, but all of them have fast charging 20 to 80% in under half an hour. So that is excellent. Here in the front of the SKODA Elroq, it is a very familiar sight. There's really nothing in here that is brand new or anything. It is just parts from the SKODA group as we know them from the Superb and the Kodiaq and even the Enyaq. So that is, on the one hand, it's not very innovative. On the other hand, it's very nice that it's all very familiar. And I have to say, in general, I said the same thing in the cover drive early in the year. The cabin is so ergonomic that everything is where you think it is, and everything does when you think what you think it'll do. So that's really nice, and I think that's really difficult to do. And I think Skoda has done a really good job in making this cabin so intuitive. So that's super nice. So in front of me, we got the very familiar Skoda steering wheel with real buttons and real dials. So you can use the right side for all your systems and all your information, the left side for your stereo and so on. And you have a small driver's display in front of you with all your relevant driving information. So that's quite nice. Head-up display is optionally available if you want to, but it's really all the information that you might need. The number of buttons is quite reduced, which is nice. They've done that because they've moved the cruise control to a little stalk here behind the steering wheel. So that's nice. It frees up a lot of space here, that you don't have this big battery bank full of buttons on your steering wheel. So that's nice. And over here, it's not in the way or anything. It's easy to reach because your hands are down here most of the time anyway. Moving to the middle, we have a very familiar SKODA screen. I'm not sure which version of the software it is these days, but it's all very robust, very easy to use, very pleasant to use. It's not the last word in graphic performance or anything, but it looks nice and it's very easy to handle. So that's quite nice. And obviously here you can do anything you want with the car. On the bottom we have a bunch of tiles that are standard for your music, your phone, your navigation, all those things. And then here on the top you got your car menus, your vehicle settings, your help systems and so on. So very familiar, very, I wouldn't say simplistic, but very easy to use. So all around quite nice. Down here we have some physical vent controls, which is also cool. I like that they don't use the sort of nipple approach they have in the Superb, for example. So, you know, easy to use this way. Everybody knows how this works. And they've given us some real buttons. So down here we have some quick toggles for your assist, your driving modes, your park assist and so on. And over here your climate control and your ventilation. So that's nice that you don't have to do everything in the screen. You also have some quick toggles down here. The thing they missed out on is, for example, the temperature settings. So for that, you always have to be here in the screen. Now this is permanently displayed, so it's not much of an issue, but it would have been nice to also have a permanent button for this. You know, up for up, down for down, nice and easy, but they still remain with the screen for that. So, you know, it's fine. You have to work between those two in order to control the car, but I think it's nice to give us the option here for physical buttons. So that's cool. Below the buttons, we got some inductive charging, 2 spots here. As you can see, my phone is in here for scale. Nice and easy. And you got 2 USB-Cs back there, which are quite far in there. So I don't think you'll be putting anything in there while you're driving, but you probably put 2 cables in there and then you permanently leave them there. We got 2 cup holders here with an adjustable middle. So you can adjust the size of your cup holder because they're not adaptive in themselves. You can fit a bottle in here easily, but of course that does block the buttons slightly. We got the drive selector here, which is an interesting choice because, for example, the Superb has it over here. I'm not really sure why, but you know, that's where it is. Parking brake, storage bin, coin slots, and under here there's a big storage bin as well. Last but not least, there's another bin down here because obviously there's no transmission tunnel, so here you have a giant space to store things that sort of normally would fly around your car. It's probably even big enough to put a small bag. So that is very practical and actually, you know, welcome extra storage in the cabin. So the cabin itself, nothing really going wrong, no surprises, which is nice. It's just very pleasant to be here, very ergonomic, and no piano black, by the way. No shiny plastic here whatsoever. So instead they have this fake carbon here and on the door as well. I'm sure you can get that in several other trims. And there's all kinds of sustainable options and environmentally friendly material, so that is good too. And this Sportline version with the big sport seats, it's just a nice place to be. These seats are comfortable, the view out is great, big mirrors on the side, so it's just a pleasant place to be. It does everything really well. Obviously we got to take the Elroq for a little drive, and sitting here it is very much exactly what you expect. Anybody who has driven the Enyaq obviously understands this drivetrain and power combination. It's very much the same. Today we're driving the 50, which is the 52 kilowatt hour battery with the small powertrain, 170 horsepower, which is not a lot in general, and especially not a lot in a car with a weight of almost 2 tons. Is it bad? No, I don't think so. It is fast enough. It's not crazy fast by any means. It's not like you're going to be in some kind of overtaking rocket, but it is very manageable, very drivable. And of course, that low horsepower is also good for your range, because this only having a 52 kilowatt hour battery in this version is not a lot, so you want all the range you can get. If you want to go up in power, you also need to go up in battery, and you can go up to almost 300 horsepower in the 85 version, so that's quite a lot. Then you have a proper quick car. In this 50 version with 170 horsepower, not so much, but it is still very drivable and very livable. Driving around here on Mallorca for about a day now, at no point I've had the feeling like, ooh, I'm so underpowered, I can't do any overtakes, for example. That's not the case at all. So it's very livable even with this small powertrain. What's slightly less livable is the suspension setup. By no means is this car gonna be, you know, super sporty or super comfortable or any of the extremes in between? But when you show it some challenging roads, let's put it that way, some roads with some undulation, some ups and downs, some off-camber corners, you feel that the suspension and the chassis is working really hard and they can cope, but that's about it. It's not unpleasant, but it's getting to that point, especially when you give it a little bit of speed and you show it some corners. You can tell that the car doesn't really want to do those things. And it's not to say that it's bad. It's still fine. It's, you know, by no means uncomfortable or anything. And it's also by no means any kind of like danger that you're like, oh, I'm reaching the limits of the car. But you can feel that there's a lot of mass that the car has to deal with, that it doesn't like to deal with. Obviously, when you go for the bigger, heavier versions, I would certainly recommend getting the DCC, the dynamic chassis control, because then you get a bit more options to give the car a bit more character that way. You can make it a bit harder if you want to, a bit softer if you need to, which is nice. This one doesn't have it. It's also a bit lighter, obviously, with the small battery pack. But if you go for the heavier car or the heavier battery pack and therefore the heavier car, I would certainly recommend the DCC in order to get that bit more compliance from the car. Obviously, we got to have a look in the back of this SKODA Elroq, because this obviously aims very much at people with kids. And I have to say, here in the back, it is basically only good news. The space here is amazing. This is the space behind myself. I'm about 183 tall and a little over 90 kilos, and I sit relatively far back in general. And I have more than enough space for somebody my size. No issues whatsoever here. Even enough space under the seat for my feet. You can raise the seat a bit, obviously, if you want to, but in general, very, very comfortable. There's no transmission tunnel in the middle, so that obviously adds to the additional space you have here, especially when you want to sit in the middle seat. And in general, there's just so much space here that it is ample is not even the word that covers it. There's just so much space to work with here. Really, really nice. Obviously, this might be a smaller car than the Enyaq, but the wheelbase is the same. So you're not losing any space in the interior, you're really only losing it in the boot. And it really shows here that all this space is still available, even though that the car is shorter. Now, the materials back here are basically on par with the front, so that's quite nice. It's all nice and soft and nice and ergonomic, so that's pleasant. The seats are big, but not huge. I can still see through the car with relative ease. Also for kids that are obviously a little bit shorter than me, there's still enough light in the car. Even though this car does not have a panoramic roof and the interior is quite dark, I'm not short for light here. I don't feel claustrophobic, so that is actually quite good. There are some creature comforts back here. Obviously, we got some manual ventilation, we got seat heating in this one, and there's a USB charger back there. And some simple things that SKODA always does right is like these kind of small pockets for your phone, big pockets for your other stuff. You know, no budget nets or weird stuff in here. All very nice. Same goes for the center armrest. It's simple and functional. This is the way you want it. No holes in here for your elbow to fall into, but just a collapsible cup holder if you need so. And when you don't, it's out of the way. It's simple, it's so efficient, and it baffles me that some manufacturers get this kind of stuff wrong. This is the way you want it to be. It's just simple, efficient, and very pleasant to live with. There's a ski hatch back here as well for your longer items. And obviously we've got to do the ISOFIX check. The ISOFIXs are down here, obviously. Like this, they're nice and covered. And you can open it up like this, and the cover stays attached to the hole. So that's great, because you don't want this to fly away. And if it is loose, it will. And like this, it is always where you left it. So that's great. By no means it's uncomfortable, also for longer journeys. In this small battery pack, obviously you won't be doing any really long journeys, but still it's very compliant, it's relaxing, it's quiet in here. We got some double glass even here in the front. So it's a pleasant place to be. The seats are comfortable. I actually fit in them, which is not something that always happens, to be honest. And it's a pleasant place to be. The view out is good. The view backwards is good too, because this is a car that is also meant for the urban environment. And SKODA mentions that too. Like, we think about these things, they say. The turning circle is very small, for example. So this car also belongs in and around the city. And it's true. Like, looking around here, I can see behind me very well. I have the big wing mirrors that are nice. The car is easy to place despite its size. It's still over 1.80 meters wide. But it's a pleasant place to pilot your vehicle. So all is well there. And the cabin in general is laid out like that too. The ergonomics of this car are excellent. SKODA has done a really good job in making sense of the cabin and also making it a cabin that's easy to get familiar with. You get in this car and you figure it out in 3 minutes flat, so that's great. That's a real accomplishment, I think. So driving around here, not much to complain about really. You can always debate about material choices and so on. Personally, I'm not that much of a fan of the fake carbon fiber and so on, but you know, it's better than the piano black of yesteryear. So overall, you know, it's a car that is nice to spend time in. Nothing really to complain about except the fact that it never gets exciting. In no way, shape or form is this a car that you're gonna, you know, attack any mountain roads with or do anything crazy skids with or anything. That's not what this car is for. Not even in the 300 horsepower version, in the 85X with four-wheel drive. I don't think you're gonna do anything crazy in that car either. So you could fault it for being boring. I don't think it's boring. I think it is good in its simplicity that way. It's also good in the way that it delivers everything it needs to deliver, because this car is obviously built for an audience that's money conscious, an audience that wants features that make sense, and not an audience that wants the most futuristic, crazy 3D screen, whatever solution that doesn't work anyway. So as far as that goes, Skoda has done a really good job in delivering what it needs to deliver, and I think that is commendable, absolutely, for the brand and for the car that they've put here. And at the same time, it looks fresh with the new design language, the modern solid. It looks fresh, it looks ready for the future. So that is super nice as well, that all comes together in this Skoda package. After a day with this new SKODA Elroq, I have to say that I'm completely convinced of this car. It offers 98% of what an Enyaq can offer in a stylish new look that is really going to be defining for the future of the brand. I think Skoda has done a great job in making this car both practical and cool and still functional on the inside. It's a great combination, and I think it's exactly what you want from the brand and what you want from a car like this. The new design language I think is fresh, is cool, and is ready for the future. The car itself is practical, doesn't really compromise on anything because it has the same wheelbase and the same powertrains and the same packaging as the Enyaq, just in a slightly smaller form factor with a slightly smaller boot. And I think that is a very strong proposition if you consider the price difference as well. So I think this is going to be a great hit, and I think Skoda has done a great job here. That's all I got for you in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss any videos. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.